So a couple of days later, I called her and I said, "Hon, I got something to tell you." She said, "What?" I said, "I no longer smell the cow manure."
Yeah, you just become numb to
it. You get used to it.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Predator Camo.
Man, this one feels good, right? I know people have been looking at this picture over your shoulder for a while now. I think that was 2018, but we just, over the last, how many years, keep coming back to Predator Camo because it's been so damn good for us.
No doubt. I think we bought our first set off of Jen at the Archer Trade Show almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jen's still with the company, and the patterns have only improved since then. They actually were recently acquired within the past couple of years. We've had a chance this past year to go and meet with new ownership, talk about redesigning a lot of the old lines, plans for new patterns, all of the above. So really excited about what's to come, not only this coming year, but in years to come. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Predator.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's always been going back to that breakup pattern, right? That's the historic look, whether you're talking about the spring greens or brown deceptions or fall grays.
Yeah.
I mean, that breakup is really what's been so powerful for us in a tree stand. And right now, they're letting anyone use the code HUNTR on the Predator Camo website and get 20% off any of the lines, including all the new stuff that dropped here in July.
Be the Predator.
Hey, we're back.
Hyping yourself up over there. Ayo.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 266. I was like, gotta
reset the brain.
Reset.
Yeah.
Episode 266 on the HUNTR Podcast. It is August 13th still.
We got a cool one today. And before we dig into it, I'm going to thank everybody for listening, whether on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Those are the main platforms that we drop these episodes on. We do that every Tuesday and Thursday night starting in September. Just Tuesdays for right now.
This might be the first one in a week of doubles, if we did the calculations correct.
If my calculations are correct, this is either it or we're coming right up on it. You can give us a like, follow, subscribe on any of those platforms. It will notify you as to when these drop, so you'll never miss one. If you've written us on Instagram, DM, or the website, those are the two that we check the most frequently. We learned recently there's some hidden parts of Instagram
we're
messaging. Yeah, so
up.
If you're like, hey, what the heck? You say this every week, but I haven't written us back. Apologize for that. Try again.
It's not inadvertent.
We're doing the best that we can. We have some merch on the website, and that's going towards Nick's engagement ring. We're pulling for a yes for Nick, so he obviously appreciates that. Thank you guys for the support. You can use code HUNTR on any of our partners' websites. That will get you a discount. And they certainly appreciate us sending them the business. So thank you guys for doing that. And other than that, here we go.
Like I said, if I did the numbers correctly, this is our first week of doubles, which means it's hunting season. We're in it.
Also means, we are in it now. Also means I'm in North Dakota?
I think so. Question mark. Yeah, I think you're
question mark.
I think you're in North Dakota, and I'm about to leave for Kentucky. Okay. If I did the math correctly. Yeah,
Do you want to real quickly mention about this elk tag, or is that okay? Because it's you can be beat is the thing, right? So
potentially.
Okay, so we won't talk about it yet.
Yeah, we won't talk about it yet.
Sorry.
But there could be a last minute change in strategy.
I see.
So,
okay,
working on it.
Okay.
Hopefully, I know in the next few days. So, but we've got a cool guest today.
Speaking of elk,
we've got Will Primos on.
The one and only. Yeah.
First, 265 plus episodes, and this is Will Primos' first appearance on the HUNTR Podcast. Yeah. Lucky for us, and super excited about this one. Kind of been a long time coming. We've been talking about it. Our new partnership with Primos was kind of where this connection obviously got made. And man, I don't know. I met Will at a wildlife extravaganza in Jackson, Mississippi when I was in school there. So that would have been 2007 or 8 probably. But I mean, I vividly remember growing up to all of the Primos speak the language type stuff, Will on a rocker on a front porch, talking about using the buck roar and things like that. And that's kind of my core memories of Primos. And obviously we don't say it just because, we're partnered with them, but we've been talking about the Primos buck roar for years, and like how that literally is the only grunt call I've ever used. And that's all I go back to.
Well, it's just a legacy, that that I think Will has lived, and not to compare him to others, but a David Blanton is one that comes to mind. You could probably rattle off two or three others of people that we admire just because of their love and their passion and appreciation for the outdoors, and their just the way that they've expressed it and share it with other people. And it's like the passion is contagious, and it's like, I think a lot of people are like, man, if you could aspire to live half the life in the outdoors that these guys have lived, it's you'd be doing something right. So
yep. So without further ado, let's bring Will in. All right, Will, can you hear us?
I can.
All right, buddy. Well, we appreciate very much you spending some time with us today. I guess still morning time out there in the Rockies, afternoon for us East Coast boys.
It's midday. It's 11:30 here.
Yeah. I mean, if it's for me, I've already ate lunch if it's past 11. So, I mean, I would consider the midday hour accurate there. Well, man, we appreciate this. Like we kind of said, in that little intro there, this is one that we've been looking forward to for a long time. And just to give you some frame of reference, Will, so I'm 41, Jared's 32, right? So like my growing up was in the heyday of, really the 90s into early 2000s around, hunting industry, hunting TV, and obviously through the eras of like, the TNN days and stuff of watching hunting content. So, I remember, going to Walmart and buying, Primos VHSs is kind of where my roots were. And that was like a special occasion for my dad and I to be able to sit down on a whatever Sunday afternoon or evening and pop in a VHS and, watch you guys out there doing things in the South and doing things in the Midwest that, Pennsylvania boys only dreamed about.
I hear you. To kind of carry on with that frame of time, I'm 73. I'm pretty closer to 74. And, we had no idea. 1976 was the first year that Primos had a dealer. So that is when we established the business. Mm-hmm. And had a dealer in Pennsylvania and one in Mississippi, of all places. And, had no idea what we were doing. But when you live a life, you're afforded opportunities based on the timing of when you were born, not only the century, the decade, but the month of the year in some cases. And I've talked about this book several times because I think about it so much, but it's called Outliers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Outliers is written by Malcolm Gladwell, who is a very well-known New York Times bestseller. Mm-hmm. And the Outliers is about people who succeeded certain things because of what was available to them. So I don't take the credit for what Primos was able to do, because if it hadn't been for the audio cassette tape, which was the precursor to digital, it was, you had a little, you buy a car and they didn't offer you to have it in your car, built into your car. So you went to an aftermarket shop and had a cassette player and speakers put in your car so you could listen to Crosby, Stills and Nash and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and later on Young.
Yeah.
They grew up. And so, I was a child of the Vietnam era. I joined the Air Force and was a marksmanship instructor. I trained the troops, mainly pilots and co-pilots and the crew, how to defend themselves with M16s and 38s and 45s if they got shot down. Mm-hmm. That was my job. I did not end up in Vietnam, but those were trying, terribly emotional times for the country and for young people going. I just got through reading Carlos Hathcock's book, Marine Sniper. Mm-hmm. So anyway, those are the things that make you. So when you're born and the things that influence you, and then later on after the audio cassette came the video VHS. Mm-hmm. You could go buy a video camera. If it wasn't for that, Primos would not have been able to become a household name. And then VHS went away, and I remember the letters we'd get from people saying, y'all quit making VHSs. I'm so mad at Primos. I said, that wasn't my choice. DVDs took the place
Took it over.
Yeah. And then we got letters that when we had to quit making DVDs because everything went to streaming.
Yeah.
So technology changes and you're afforded the opportunities a lot of times in life because of what's available to you. And if it wasn't for those technologies that other people created, we could not have told the story like we did.
Well, you said 1976. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And what was the original product at Primos?
It was turkey mouth calls.
Was it just one, or you like came out with a line of them, or?
I had three. I was making them for friends. A friend of mine got me to making them because he didn't like what he could buy, and of all things, he thought I could make one. I said, I don't know how to make one of those. And so he handed me one and said, figure it out. And this is an older friend. He's gone. He's passed away. Name was Buck Dearman. But anyway, I ended up enjoying the process and got good at it and ended up with a dealer selling my calls. And the packaging, oh my gosh, I don't think UPC codes were even created at that
Probably
time.
not.
And so, there was no UPC code on there, and it was a wild ride,
Just curious, whereabouts in Pennsylvania was the first dealer?
Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we're in the Pittsburgh area. Are they still around, or whereabouts?
I do not know. I do not remember the name of them. But what happened was a guy from Pennsylvania came to Mississippi hunting, and he went to the sporting goods store in Mississippi, and there my calls were, and he bought one and loved it. He took it back to Pennsylvania and had a dealer friend up there, and that guy ended up calling me.
Well, so we'll back up a little bit. I mean, people obviously, you're not gone in this industry, right? For a lot of us, we grew up watching you, but just for people to understand, so were you born and raised in Mississippi early in life?
Yeah, I was born and raised. My daddy, my grandfather on my father's side, immigrated from Greece in 1908. He was 8 years old.
Wow.
He came with his mother and 4 other siblings, and they came through New Orleans. And he's 8 years old and doesn't have an education in the United States, much less very much one in Greece. That the Turks had killed his father and taken their land. So my great grandmother said, "What the heck? We ain't got nothing now. Let's try the U.S."
Yeah.
So they came over. It's typical of a lot of immigration stories. And so my grandfather, what was available to him was the restaurant business. He could be a little busboy. He could deliver French bread to the homes. And so he did whatever he could do. And he was very smart. And he ended up being quite successful. And in 1927, he moved to Jackson, Mississippi. He had a very young family at the time. That was during the Depression.
Yep.
He opened a bakery and then added a grill and restaurant to it, ended up with 5 restaurants, and was in the middle of all the business activity in the capital, which was Jackson.
Wow.
So he had, 4 children. And so that ended up, they ended up in all kinds of businesses and were very successful. And I grew up on 52 acres outside of the town of Jackson, had a lake, and all I wanted to do was hunt and fish. And my daddy worked all the time. He was a World War II veteran. And when he got out of World War II, he bought him a side-by-side Fox Model B used shotgun for $10 and bought 2 bamboo fly rods, and he was going to go hunting and fishing as much as he could. But being a Depression child and growing up, he was mainly worried about being able to make a living and send his 3 boys to college. So that was my daddy's life, and he took me on my first squirrel hunt. And his brothers, my uncles, Uncle Billy, Uncle Alec, and Uncle Gus, they all took me different types. Uncle Gus was a great duck hunter, green timber duck hunter, and Billy was too. He was also a big deer hunter and turkey hunter, and so was Gus. Alec was a big saltwater fisherman, so I grew up traveling to the Mississippi Gulf Coast and fishing off the islands from the time I was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I had just a life of the outdoors, and I didn't really like the restaurant business. So that's what you did when you got out of church on Sunday. I was standing on Coke cases and
Yep.
filling teas and making salads for the waitresses, and you know, learned a very strong work ethic at a very early age. So I started making those calls, and one thing led to another, and I saw some success, and I went, I might can make a business out of this. Maybe I can get out of the restaurant business. So that may have been my motivation.
So when you were in high school, or when you graduated high school, did you go right into the military, or was there a lapse?
I did.
You did.
That was a really rough time of life right there, and I just didn't want to go straight to college.
Mm-hmm.
So I went straight into the Air Force.
Okay.
Was trained at Lackland, and that's
Yep.
where I also did my basic training and my job, which was marshalship instructor.
Gotcha. And so from there, did you come back, and did you go to college after that?
Oh yeah, I was in the Air Guard, so I went in January of '71. I started at Ole Miss, and didn't like Ole Miss, and so I left and went to State. And I liked State, but I had started dating a girl back at Ole Miss, so I stayed 2 semesters at State. Then I went back to Ole Miss to date her, and I didn't want to break up with her because her daddy was the best crappie fisherman in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
So finally we said this ain't gonna work. But I stayed friends with Leighton Miller. He was a piece of work, and he could catch a crappie.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to pick up tips from that guy when you got him close by.
That's right.
So okay, so then after that, that's where the calls started to come in.
So if I'm following
Right.
that right, if that was 71, you were in your mid-20s when you started Primos?
I was 20 in 1976. I would have been 24.
24.
Yeah, I was born in 52.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah. So I'd been making the calls for quite a few years, but I didn't have I just had them for friends. I didn't have a business. So that started in '76.
Yeah. So it started as turkey calls, and so how long before it kind of started to evolve into, I assume, some other calls were the next product line?
The next was deer, and there was a whole lot being written about and talked about. And in Mississippi at that time, we were primarily a dog running deer hunting state.
Yeah.
And deer didn't get to be themselves. You didn't get to see the natural interaction, the mating, the rut, because they were hiding in the thickets and waiting for the next dog to jump them and run them out of the country. But there was a group in several nucleuses of people around the state who wanted to do what they call still hunt. They didn't want the dogs, and feeding the dogs was becoming more and more expensive. So there were less and less people keeping dogs year round. And so finally, the management of whitetails and the understanding of whitetails came about. I don't remember what year that was, but that would have probably been in the late 70s, early 80s that we started making deer calls, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, because I'm going to say sometime in the mid 80s, they would have done, Harry Jacobson would have done deer management assistant program out of Mississippi State. So at that point, there were enough groups or hunt clubs starting to think about deer hunting differently in the state of Mississippi, at least.
Yeah, I mean, at one time, I believe his name was Skip Shelton. He was from State, and he was a biologist, and he came up with the idea, once a spike, always a spike.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody was trying to kill every spike they could see. When deer's got his first set of horns, he might not be 12 months old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's a nubbin buck or got 2-inch horns or whatever. And I don't know how that got started. Probably because somewhere like in Texas, whatever, they would grow a 4-point rack or a 6-point rack.
Yeah, exactly.
A small rack at that age. But anyway, we've got great deer hunting in Mississippi now, and we kill a couple of 200 inches every year.
Wow.
So if you let them get old enough and let them get to past 4.5 to 6.5, 7.5. You can really have some good bucks.
Remind me, we talked to him. Who is the deer management pro?
William McKinley now.
William McKinley, we talked to, and we were super impressed. You know, generally, we talked to a lot of the heads of deer programs.
He is science-based, awesome.
Yep.
He is great.
Yep.
He is great for us.
Yeah, and he gets it. He's relatable. William himself is a huge hunter. You know, he's a Mississippi boy. Like, there's just a lot of those things that having a relatable guy who understands the science, who is truly trying to create a good hunting experience for everybody in Mississippi, like that's the recipe for the success that you got to have.
Well, and the relationship with the college down there, it seems like it's one of the only states at this point using science to make wildlife decisions, you know, for deer.
Yeah, y'all talking about you're in Pennsylvania, so I can't remember the year, but it was the National Wild Turkey Federation's 25th anniversary in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania state chapter's 25th anniversary. And so I was invited to come up there and to be a speaker and, you know, meet everybody and all that kind of stuff. Well, that was the year that Gary Alt was changing the thinking for the management of deer in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so that'd been 2000, 2001, somewhere around there.
I don't remember the date, but anyway, I remember the trip very vividly because he had guards around him and he was speaking before I was, and he was supposed to just get up there and tell them the latest. Oh my God. I mean, I just about never made it up there to say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they were going to kill him.
Oh, I know. It was wild, man.
They were going to kill him. You know, and oddly enough, let me see if I can find some. Can I pause a minute?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
and Will, I'll tell you, we've had Gary on. He came on and shared the whole story, and so we kind of have it from his perspective too.
It was great too. I mean, and it was kind of interesting because when that was happening, I was like a sophomore or junior in high school, and I ended up traveling to some of the town hall meetings that Gary was doing, and I mean, it was intense. I mean, you could cut that tension in those rooms with a knife for sure. I mean, people.
I mean, yeah, it was great. So later on, a guy from Pennsylvania named Charlie Dix contacted me, and he said, "Just love the video, love what we did." And he said, "My parents have a dairy farm, and we've got good turkeys, and we'd like for y'all to come up here and do a video with us." And so we went to Pennsylvania. I believe this was in the Poconos.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie was a great gentleman. He was just fantastic. His parents were salt of the earth. And his best friend was much older than him, but his best friend was Buck Alt, Gary's daddy.
Oh.
So,
Gary's
you know,
daddy.
making those circles. And so the world that I've gotten to be a part of and to live in, and you know, has just been phenomenal. I'll tell you a funny one. So I called my wife. There were no cell phones back then. It was that early on. So I'm in Charlie's parents' home. We're staying in a little cabin on their land, me and Ronnie Jolly. And so I'm using the phone. I'm calling Mary. I said, "Mary, these people are dairy farmers, and they get cow manure on their clothes and boots and whatever. They got a little room. They take them off before they go in the house. But the whole place smells like cow manure."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I said, I've never experienced this before. So we kind of talked about that.
Experienced this before.
So a couple of days later, I called her and I said, "Hon, I got something to tell you." She said, "What?" I said, "I no longer smell the cow manure."
Yeah, you just become numb to it.
You get used to it. You know?
I am the cow manure.
But that was a great trip with Charlie. What a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a part of some great fundraising efforts there in Pennsylvania to bring youth on to hunting opportunities. But I was more intrigued by the grouse that were drumming.
Oh, unfortunately, that's disappeared pretty rapidly up here. I mean, that's what I was a deer hunter. I was a season hunter. Whatever's in season, you go hunt, right? And I spent many Octobers just chasing grouse all over the place. In fact, when I went to Penn State, I was the first time I ever got a job up there was to go and do grouse surveys. And they're basically, hey, every morning you just walk this same line. You tell me how many birds you hear drumming. That was a dream. I was going to do it anyways, right? Like, to me, I was just scouting for grouse hunting later on in the fall. Like, if I knew where all the birds were, I could go in and hunt them all.
Yeah, that's one of those where you say, where you say, please, you're a rabbit. You say, please don't throw me in the briar patch.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, it was great, but whether it's habitat and the West now, obviously, but boy, it used to be I could sit there any spring morning and I would hear twice as many or more, grouse drumming as I would hear turkeys gobbling. And now if you hear a grouse drum, even in some of these cutovers and stuff, it's a rarity.
Is it the loss of habitat or is it something else?
Between that and the West Nile virus, at least per what they're saying, I assume also predators on the nest predation side has a huge impact on it. I mean, traditionally we were a very trapping heavy state, and now we're not. As is most of the country. Like trapping's decreased. So. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely making a comeback in some places. I have some pockets up here on the mountain where I live that, I'll flush a bird every once in a while. But the unfortunate thing is, Will, like I wouldn't even think about hunting them if I flush them just because I enjoy it, right? Like
hunters are the first one to understand that and to conserve the resource.
Yeah.
We're the ones who live it. We're the ones who make it possible financially. I could talk about that for days. So.
Yeah. It's a hard thing for people to understand because I'll be like, yeah, I flushed a grouse today, and they're like, oh, that probably a good spot to hunt. I wouldn't even think of it. I wouldn't even tell you where the spot is because I want that bird to make it,
There you go.
So yeah, it's tough, but it's funny when you talk about like having that dealership in Mississippi and Pennsylvania. It's like we keep coming back. Like we talked to the Hoyt guys. Like Hoyt, Pennsylvania has been the #1 Hoyt bow state for ever decades. Yeah. This state has just been so rich and so dedicated to it that we see that commonality coming back multiple times on different conversations.
Did I see that y'all were going to get to start hunting on Sunday?
We did. Fine. How about that? It only took 100 years for it to happen, but yeah, the governor just recently signed it in. Now it's weird how they did it. We were allowed to hunt in Sundays from I think it's mid-September till December 7th, and then they're going to try to pass something for the other ones. But yes, we have Sunday hunting officially this fall for the first time. And I mean, we've had 3 for the last, I think, 4 years maybe. But we officially have everyone between opening day of archery and close of rifle gun.
Well, I'm sure some of the churches are not happy about it.
They're not. Some of the farmers aren't either. There's been a lot of the conversation. The pushback originally was from the Farm Bureau, right, and representation of the farmers. And I think they kind of got out of the way because basically you can't be claiming or complaining about crop damage, but not having a day extra to hunt, as an opportunity. So yeah, they stepped out of the way, and then it kind of sailed through from there here.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by DeerGro.
Man, hard to believe, but DeerGro has been the sponsor that's been there since the beginning of the HUNTR Podcast. Back in 2021, I think that they were the only partner that we had, but it's such a cornerstone brand and set of products for our food plot strategy throughout the year.
No doubt. And it seems like we used to have an off season, but not so much anymore. It's like when the hunting season ends, it really rolls right into food plot season, habitat projects, all of the above. And the Plot Start and Plot Boost have been there since the very beginning. That's a cornerstone for all of our plots. The Plot Start goes on at the beginning, Plot Boost goes on midway through. And since they came out with all of the fertilizers, that gets mixed in with the Plot Boost application as well. And I can't believe the results that we've been getting out of that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I said, it's all the work now that really produces the results in the fall. So right now, anyone listening to the HUNTR Podcast can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 15% off any of the products at DeerGro.com.
Better food plots, bigger deer.
Well, so I mean, if we talk about I've been in the hunting industry since I was, 23 or 24 probably. you know, and I look at the changes that I've seen, you know, since the early 2000s, you know, from your standpoint, you know, you started selling calls and stuff. When did Primos start making videos? When did that discussion start to come up?
The video, you could go and buy a video camera, if memory serves me correct, about 1985. Now,
Okay.
they were expensive, or more so, and you had a VHS tape in there that you recorded on, and you could put it in the player and play it back. So I believe the year was 1986. It may have been 85. The National Wild Turkey Federation convention was in New Orleans. And I'm 3.5 hours from New Orleans in Mississippi. I'm talking to you from Montana, which we have a home here, and we come here quite often. We've been coming here for 35 years, and we love Montana. So we're always coming here trying to find the next thing to go do, the next thing to go see. Anyway, I was at that convention in New Orleans, and I had my little booth, and I had my calls, and I'm promoting, so forth. By the way, to back up a little bit, 1984 was the first year that Primos, me, attended the SHOT Show, the Shooting Hunting Outdoor Trade Show.
Yeah.
And it was in Atlanta. And that was a new experience. I had no idea. I thought you took orders at the show. You didn't for the next year. You know, so I made calls all year round, and I had them all stacked up behind me.
Nobody was taking them away from there.
Yeah. I used them I gave away a lot. That was my advertising.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to advertise. So I'd give calls away to get people knowing what we did. Anyway, at that New Orleans convention, there was a guy next to me. His name was Marvin Killingsworth, and he had bought a VHS camera. He was a turkey hunter, and he had sat down. He was from Alabama, and he sat down at a logging site where they loaded the logs, and all the trash and the limbs they didn't want were all piled up. And he backed up to that pile of trash and called the turkey out of the bottom with his camera. And it wasn't very good quality. The technology just wasn't far enough along yet. But he was playing that at the booth next to me, and people were lined up. There was never not a line at his booth to see that video of him calling up that turkey and shooting that turkey. And I sold out of calls because they were waiting in line by my booth, waiting to get up there to see the TV. And, you know, so I sold out of calls, and I went, I'm going to do that. That's the best advertising I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so we, that year, we should have been 86. The guy who was running marketing for Primos at the time, Boyd Burrow, who's passed away, he was a great turkey hunter and a great supporter of the NWTF. I said, look, we're going to buy the best camera we can. Let's go try to do some hunts. So we did. We got one hunt done. Of course, I was in the restaurant business. I had to, I was trying to make my game call business work. I'm working all the time. I closing the restaurant at night, back in the morning, and so anyway, I had a little manager who was I had converted my whole house to the business. So the living room was Boyd Burrow's office where the marketing was. Anyway, so we got one hunt done, and it was a great hunt. And I actually shot the turkey standing up because when he gobbled, I couldn't sit down or he'd probably see me. Anyway, then that was such a success, and that tape was called Spring Turkey Hunting with Wilbur Primos and the Southern Boys. I mean, you talk about somebody who needed a marketing lesson.
That was a good mouthful, huh?
Yeah, and so anyway, but it was a big success. So Ronnie Cuz Strickland, who's been at Mossy Oak for years, he was at Rex Sporting Goods, and he called me and said, "You've got to hear and see some of these stuff I've done turkey hunting." And your tape is your that was in 1983 that we put out the audio cassette, and he loved that. And so he called me when the videos came available, and he was doing that. So I drove down to Natchez, Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
which is about 2.5 hours on the Mississippi River. And so I drove down there and talked to Ronnie, and I said, I want to hire you. I didn't have anything. I didn't have the money to hire him, but I said, I need to hire this guy. And so he came up to my town, and we sat down in the house there, and I said, you tell me what it's going to take to make it work for you and your family. And so I went to the bank, second mortgage on my house, borrowed some more money.
Wow.
I bought him a truck, a silver Ford pickup truck. We put a camper on the back of it, and he called it the Silver Bullet. And I said, go video anybody you can. I said, I'm going to be working, and if I can get off and be with you, great. But you take anybody that'll go. And most of those people are going to be people who own land who will let you hunt their land. So take their grandkid, take their kid.
Yeah.
So, that's what we did. And I think I ended up on 2 hunts, I think, on the Truth One. Well, it wasn't the Truth One. It was the Truth.
Yeah, the
There
truth.
wasn't a 2.
Yep.
So how do you know you call it Truth One when you ain't got a Truth
Yep.
2?
Yep.
Truth 2 yet. Anyway, so at the end of the season, the Cubs had 12 incredibly great hunts. And what I told him, his direction was, don't fake anything.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, don't try to recreate it.
Yep.
Just because if you do, people are going to see through it.
Mm-hmm.
And we want it to be, the actual hunt, the actual happening. So anyway, that's what we did. And so we were sitting around going, okay, we got to hire these people we knew who to hire, people that would edit the tapes for us and put it together. We sit in there. It was all analog. It wasn't digital.
Mm-hmm.
And, we said, what are we going to call this thing? And Cuz just mouths off and goes, all I know is it's the truth. And I went, that's it. We'll call it the truth. And so that began the Truth series. And that one, you have no idea in your life when one moment will affect you for the rest of your career. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Wow.
And the Truth went on and on and on. I don't know how many Truth turkeys we had, and we've killed over 300 elk with a bow on video. I don't know how many Truth elks we had, and predator and waterfowl and big game. So as the flywheel got big enough and heavy enough, and the flywheel is the monetary engine that's driving everything, and I wasn't taking any money out. My wife was supporting me. I didn't draw any salary for 10 years there at the key times.
Wow.
So anyway, it finally got enough legs under it, and it held up. And I don't know, at one point we had over 200 employees, and
Wow.
we were moving some stuff, man.
Well, so when that first Truth video was produced, Will, I mean, obviously you sold those and made some money, but it was a method to the end, which was really to sell calls, right?
It was one of the goals, we had to decide what's the true goal of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so early on, and maybe that's one of the things that I had that was in my head. If we couldn't do good in whatever we did, I didn't want to do it. It wasn't just for the money. Yes, you wanted to make a living.
Sure.
But it had to be something bigger than that. So there were many people who were upset with me for teaching other people how to turkey hunt. They wanted to keep it a secret. And Pennsylvania was famous for that. Way back there, they were famous for that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I said, no, we've got to have as many people exposed to this. Some people don't have a daddy or an uncle. They don't have a mentor to teach them. So the more we can expose this, the more we can share how much fun this is. We can teach people to love this. And if they'll love it, they'll want to protect it.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of went, we never went, oh, did you see that? I called that turkey up and I used the Primos view. That was out. We were not allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We just did it. We would put on down at the bottom of the screen what call we used because people wanted to know.
I remember seeing that. It would come up with the name or the number and then the name of the call. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but we didn't hard sell it.
Right.
And sometimes we didn't even do that. But we regrouped after these hunts and got on a porch and relived the hunt.
Yeah.
And so people loved the porch thing. It was an easy, economical way to get it done, but it worked.
Oh, I remember the porch scene vividly, like the intro, the lead into it, and then watching the hunt. And I thought it was cool because a lot of the stuff at that point didn't give you the context, right? So like it just all of a sudden you're in a hunt with someone, you're like, where are they? What are they doing? What's the like? It's so your kind of porch scene there and discussion with the guys really kind of gave you context into what you were about to watch or what you just watched.
It did. And like I said, we just were lucky. We didn't know what we were doing. but as we did it and people reacted, we realized how hard it was working.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. I guess my voice has been on the TV screen so much through VHSs, through DVDs, through TV shows. You mentioned TNN.
Yeah.
Before Primos had enough money, Toxie Hayes made a commitment for $1 million to be on TNN, and it was incredible. We had ads on there. My voice was the ad on there, so my voice has been around. And a couple of years ago, I was in Hoyt, Montana, which is, I guess it's 40 or 50 miles from here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting gas. And Mary's going inside, and I said, give me a bottle of water, hon. And this guy runs over from the pump next to me and goes, Will Primos, I know that voice anywhere. He scared me to death. And it was a realization that, holy moly, people have they've watched these things over and over and studied them and learned from them.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to think we made a contribution to the future of this tradition of hunting that we all love so much.
Yeah.
So it's been quite the ride. It's been, and just recently, you said y'all just were talking to Donnie Vincent, who I didn't know well, and got to be around him. And he's part of Sigmonta, which is the production company that him and Kyle Nicolite own.
Yep.
And they just came to my home and were there for 3 days, and we're trying to document the history of Primos because next year is the 50th anniversary of Primos.
Mm-hmm.
And so the things Toxie came and they interviewed Toxie, they interviewed Cuz, they interviewed a lot of old Primos employees, and it was pretty cool. We had one fire scene that I was dreading. It's summer, we're making it look like a fire. We sat out there. We're supposed to put on coats so it looked like we're cold. We're burning up. And me and Brad Ferris and Slade Reeves and Troy Ruiz and Brad Johnston and Jason Jones, I can't remember who else, were all around this fireplace. They're old Primos employees and friends. And I was reduced to tears telling stories about what all we done and all the things that we were a part of. Like I said, all we were trying to do was make a living and do something that was good. And it was an amazing journey.
There was another somewhat recent one that you may recall. We saw Will on. They've changed now to the Origins Foundation, but it was Blood Origins.
Yeah, with Robbie.
You recall doing that interview with Robbie several years ago?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that one stood out to me just as for whatever reason, it had been a minute since I really was dialed in on like a Will Primos production, and I remember watching that and just being like, man, I if I would get to meet this guy someday, I was like, I would be super, super grateful. It was a cool piece.
Well, to me, it was always like, it was and this, I look at kind of where digital is now and YouTube. And I think, the hunting society really has embraced the education side as much as the entertainment, but the education side, I mean, that's why people go to YouTube and they're like, how do I do this? Or how do I call elk? How do I call turkeys? And if I rewind my brain back to what you guys were doing, like you really were the front wave of that. Just how we got that information was different. And there was a weird period, though, I would say, kind of between where we are now and really when you guys got that fired up, Will, that, there became a lot of just pure entertainment, into the hunting content space. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it definitely changed things. Like I felt like you guys really kept as did several others, but kept that path of like, we want people to enjoy this content, but we want to teach them something along the way. And then there was another group that kind of just came in and it was more of like, we're just entertainers. Like we look at ourselves as entertainers, and that had its phase, but I think that's probably kind of, past at this point.
For sure.
From a favorability, I guess, in the space.
Yeah. Well, YouTube is pretty amazing what you can learn if you need to look something up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the world goes to now, is YouTube. And so that's where you'll find Primo stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's where I think, like, if I'm following along with that, because I mean, I remember, I don't know if it was actually the first grunt call, but like I to this day, and I have it in my pack, like I've got a Primos buck roar that I've had for, I don't know.
Let's get our facts straight on that. Is that Primos buck roar? Is that like one of the original deer products, or?
No, it's not one of the original deer products. Before, I had never heard a deer roar before. And so you hear them grunt. And then Brad Ferris, actually, if I remember right, Brad actually recorded it. And and we had heard it. I thought it was a great blue heron when I first heard it. They'll fly over you.
Yeah.
When I first, I couldn't see it, but I couldn't put it together like I wanted to.
Right.
But then Brad did. So that roar is one of the most aggressive sounds that a buck will make, and it's fight's fixing to happen. The next thing you're probably going to hear is a wheeze.
Yeah.
But every buck in the whole country that's anywhere near within hearing of that, they know what that is happening. Mm-hmm. And the way they come to it is crazy. So you just got to time it. It's all about timing. You can do that call in the summertime and it doesn't mean anything to the deer.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that's where, like, even from just the tone of, and I guess that's, and maybe this is just kind of going deep on the background side of it. Like, as you're making turkey calls, in your mind, Will, you've got a tone and a pitch and things that you're trying to achieve there. As you guys started to expand your line into the waterfowl side and into the deer side, is that a discussion, especially early in the days, between your small group of like, hey, like, we need this to sound, or does that sound good? Or do you think it needs to be deeper? Do you think it needs to be, higher pitch?
There's no doubt about it. I had no idea how much hearing I had lost early on. And so I learned early on in developing the calls, and I was the chief call guy, but my goal was not to pay attention to what I thought was right, to get enough people giving me their input.
Gotcha.
And there was a guy that worked for us, and I learned to lean on him a lot. And the reason I did, he was a musician, and his name was Bubba McPherson. And I would ask Bubba, I said, come hear this call, because he could hear things I couldn't hear. Mm-hmm. Now I'm older now, and I did about 5 years ago get hearing aids. It's one of the greatest things I ever did, because I had lost so much high frequency hearing. I remember it's been 3 years now that I had my hearing aids. Me and Brad and I are turkey hunting, and I heard the turkey walking the leaves at 100 yards.
Jeez.
I ain't heard a turkey walking the leaves at 100 yards in a long time.
Yeah.
So I could keep up with him, and I shoot a 20 gauge with a silencer on it. So it still has a pop to it, but it's not ear damaging. The decibels are low enough.
Right.
And I shoot subsonic ammunition. I shoot 950 feet a second TSS. And I can wear my hearing aids and still shoot the turkey and not damage my hearing. And it's brought my old school turkey hunting back to me.
Yeah.
But the hearing is a big deal. What you hear, you can reproduce. That's why all the really, really good turkey callers, and one of the best ones I know right now, the guy who worked for Primos for a long time named Lake Pickle.
Yeah, I know Lake.
Him and Troy Ruiz, they are incredible turkey yelpers with a mouth call. And one of the reasons is because they can hear.
Yeah.
They can hear what that call is producing, and they can change what they need to get the sound that they want to get.
Yeah.
So you got to realize it's not about you. It's about the customer. And if you want to give the customer the best product, you need to get as many opinions as you can.
Yeah.
Because yours might not be right.
Yeah. No, I think that's a big one. And I mean, that's where, like, you know, those videos, and obviously before that, even the cassettes, like, for a lot of people, they maybe were never around somebody that knew how to call or knew how to do that. So when you guys were putting those things together, that for a lot of us, that was the first time we were hearing somebody, quote unquote, do it right. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's what that's supposed to sound like. You know, I can remember the first time turkey hunting, just out there yapping away, yap, 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 you know, and then, you know, to hear just different putts or key calls, I'm like, what is that? Like, I've never heard that before.
Well, in my 20s, a friend called me, and he had run over a hen with a bush hog, and he said, he's got a bunch of eggs here. You think they'll hatch? I said, no, but I'll come get them. And I put them in an incubator. And so Conway and Loretta, the gobbler and the hen, became my pets. And I had a pen in the backyard, and she would jump up on my lap, and because she knew I had crickets. And I would hold that cricket up, and I'd take it away from her. She was fast too. You had to anticipate when she was going to come at you, because she was going to get that cricket before you could move that hand. But she would cackle at me when I make, you know, take it. She was just excited, and I could have her right in my face. I could watch her mouth. I could hear her, and it was just phenomenal getting that in my head. Because you know, as much as I turkey hunted many seasons every day, rain, sun, or shine, you know, you don't always get to hear a fly down cackle or a fly up cackle or a hen cackle for whatever reason. And you got to hear stuff enough to put it in your brain to be able to reproduce it correctly.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
Should be no surprise to anyone listening to this that back with Hoyt another season. I'm actually going to be shooting the AX2 aluminum this year.
You traitor.
But you're still going RX9.
Yeah, blacked out as always.
Blacked out. Yeah. Big surprise for everyone.
80 pounds. Big surprise. Yeah.
But seriously, man, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Every year, it seems like we get a new Hoyt bow in our hands, and they're always a step above the last and just a step above everybody else.
Yeah, they're so consistent, man. Just their processes get better, you know, every year. And we've really been excited about, as we've grown with Hoyt, we've brought some others in with us. And we just feel like the Hoyt family is growing, like the community, and we're really excited about the people that are involved, excited to be a part of that company. And it's really awesome.
So for anyone that's excited about Hoyt, like Jared and I are, you can use the code HUNTR, HUNTR, on Hoyt.com.
Get serious, get Hoyt.
You mentioned the NWTF and the calling stuff. I mean, I would assume that Primos was pretty heavily involved in those early calling contests.
Not at all. So I didn't want to get on the stage, and I didn't think I was good enough anyway. And it just never appealed to me. So the slogan for Primos in the beginning in those early years was "For the Woods." And the implication that I was trying to make was,
not for the
this
stage.
Is for the woods, not the stage. And that came a lot from the duck calling contest, because the people who can blow a duck call and are in command of that call, you don't hear a duck call like that.
Right.
But they've got to show the judges that they have command of that call to be able to win that contest. But the way they blow it, a hen mallard doesn't typically call like that. But after maybe 10 years of For the Woods, one day, a girl named Jennifer Bricknack, she walked into my office. She was in the marketing department. She walked in my office and said, "I got a slogan I think you ought to consider." And I said, "Well, I think For the Woods is working pretty good." And she said, "Well, I got one I think will work a lot better." I said, "What is it?" She said, "Speak the language." And I went, I'll think about it. And about a week later, I went, "That's brilliant. She is really smart." I went to her and I said, "I think that is, I'm going to change it. I think that is absolutely incredible that you thought that up." So Speak the Language became, and it stood for a lot of things, not only speaking the language of the game animal that you're hunting, but speaking the language of hunting, using the right type of tripod, the right backpack, the right clothes, so your temperature is regulated, whatever it might be. So Speak the Language became a great tagline.
Yeah. And I think that was a big thing for a lot of us being able to watch and engage with that, as it was more than just the call side of things, right? We were, when you guys are out there hunting and doing hunts, you're talking about the gear you're using, you're talking about the movements you're making, you're talking about the stocks you're putting on, and all of that, you know, was far beyond removed from just being able to call them in.
Yep. Yeah.
That's wild, man. Well, I mean, you know, one of the things that, and I don't remember when it was, Will, and you don't have to go into the details, but I think it's interesting. Like, obviously, anyone that's got their own small business and puts a lot of effort and you know, blood, sweat, and tears into it, at some point, an exit comes, right? And at some point, you guys had an opportunity to sell Primos, and I would assume that probably wasn't the first opportunity that somebody came and said, "Hey, we want to buy Primos," but I mean, I guess just from an industry perspective, what was that like as Primos started to become such a powerhouse in the space? Like, you guys as you know, the founders of this thing, what did that seem like and feel like as that company kept growing?
Well, I will tell you that it was also consuming. It was. I was at the office every day of the week and after church on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very lucky to have surrounded myself with very great people. And I had a degree in business. I understood profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. And I understood there was an innate sense. And I was a prolific reader of books that people who had tried to build businesses, no matter what they were. And in reading those books, one of the things you get if you're doing some of those things, it reinforces what you're doing may be right. And you're reading about things that you hadn't thought of that you might want to try.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't realize that we sold Primos in 2006.
Okay.
So that's quite a few years ago. But at one point, I was tens of millions of dollars in debt to grow the company like we needed to. That's just where the debt went. Investing into the capital investments, the CNC equipment we used to make a lot of the products, and we controlled everything we did but cut and sew. Cut and sew was sourced in Asia.
Right.
But everything we did was on CNC. We had our own 3D printers. We had our own CAD programs. We would design stuff, see if it would work. It's amazing what all we went through to provide a good product. And finally, in 2006, we were debt free. And, you know, I looked at it and I went, my goodness, we've probably got close to $15 million in inventory. We had a 110,000 square foot warehouse, a very elaborate. Everything was right there except for the CNC shop, which was an hour and a half south, which was headed up by Anthony Foster. And we bought his business and invested into Anthony, and he became the head call maker, so to speak, for fancy box calls and stuff like that. He's a wizard, and he's just really, really good at it. But we were debt free. We had all this money in inventory, and we had all this money in receivables. And so, as a business person, how do you get that out?
Yeah,
and I'm looking at it, and I had right at 200 employees, and I'm thinking, I got to keep taking care of these employees. I had 7 department heads, executives who ran each department. Each one had his own budget. We met once a month. By the 10th of the month, the CFO had our statement out. We all met. Everybody looked up at the big screen and saw everybody's budget and whether you were under or over, and what we needed to do, how we needed to balance things, how things were going for each department. And so I wanted a little bit of a break, but I didn't know how to break it.
Yeah.
And I realized that for us to continue to support the employees, we had to continue to grow. So we had to continue to invest more money into more products that made sense. What made sense was the products that we used. If we were using a game camera and showing people how to figure out what the deer were doing, or whatever the game might be, then we could make a camera.
Yep.
But I just decided that it was time, and I got lucky and found a mergers and acquisition group out of Birmingham, Alabama, and they were just what I was looking for. And they came and met with me and finally signed a disclosure statement, and so I gave them all the paperwork, and they called me in about a week and said, we want to come back over and visit with you. And I said, okay. So they drove back from Birmingham, sat down with me and said, you're not ready to sell your business. And I went, okay. And here's why. And they started pointing out what was going to happen tax-wise and what was going to happen if we sold the business. And said, you need to do X, X, and X. It's going to take you about 2 years to get that done.
Wow.
And
how'd that make you feel, Will, when they said that?
I felt like I was so fortunate it was crazy. Because if
Really?
I would have sold it without somebody having the experience and knowledge, and somebody who wasn't just looking for the quick dime, because they were going to make a commission on the sale.
Sure.
So we sold it for a whole lot more, and the people that bought it was a private equity firm out of Chicago. We had about 20 companies bid for Primos, and we chose this company because of who they were and what their plan was. It was not just about money as it was, what's the future look like?
Sure.
And so they bought it, and we doubled it in size, and I stayed on for 8 years after that. So 2014, Bushnell bought us.
Yep.
And we were twice the size as when I sold it.
Wow.
So Bushnell bought us, and then ATK bought us, who was publicly traded, and they became Vista.
Yep.
Vista owned CCI, Spear, Federal, many of the ammunition manufacturers. They're now been sold, and they're owned by the Czechoslovakian group that owns Fiocchi.
Yep. And you guys are on the Revelist side at this point.
And then the Revelist split off with all the hard goods. So that's Sims, Stone Glacier, Primos, Bushnell, Uncle Mike's. I don't know how many brands there are. There's a lot of different brands.
Will, are any of those XX and X things that you mentioned that the original mergers and acquisition group mentioned to you, are any of those things that you're willing to share? Like if people have ever or are considering selling their business and they're prepping it for sale, is any of that?
So we were a C Corp. But I had, if I remember correctly, we had elected to be an S corporation. So that means that all the profits flow personally through your personal.
Correct.
You don't pay corporate tax and then take out some more money, so you're double taxed.
Yep.
That's one of the costs of being a public company. So they wanted us to go back to C Corp. And then they wanted us to do a built-in gain study, because there were built-in gains, because I had been putting money back into the company all those years, and that built-in gain could be huge because it was going to be taxed at a level,
right?
And you could end up, with. So he said you're smart enough that you've been under an audit for 10 years in your company, but you need to hire an independent audit company separate from the audit company that's been doing your audit, to do an audit for the built-in gain. And he said, it's going to be expensive, but you need to do this to establish that. And so they did it, and we got a real good, favorable built-in gain number, and then we were able to move forward.
The built-in gain, is that essentially you're auditing like your owner investment over the years of ownership?
It's money that you made, but you haven't taken out.
Yeah. To deduct ultimately from the sale.
It would have been used as a basis.
That's what I mean.
It's going to be taxed.
Yeah, just different.
Now, I'm not a CPA. I don't know it all. So CPAs out there listening can probably chime in. Maybe one of them.
Well, but that's good to know, because there's a lot of, because anybody that's putting a small business in, like, there's a lot of times, like, there's money that you made profitability wise, but you don't take it out of your company, and in an S corp format, you get taxed for it personally.
Yeah.
Even if you don't take it.
And there was one thing that I learned that all people who are going to sell a business need to know, and it's called a working capital adjustment. And a working capital adjustment is different for every sale of every business. And it's the capital that it takes for that business to be ongoing.
Right.
If you're selling the business and you're taking money for your business and you're leaving no money in the business, the new owners have to put in a bunch of money to be able to make the business work. It's the working capital for the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that adjustment can be substantial. It can be multi-millions, depending on how big your company is.
Yeah.
And so anybody selling their company, learn about working capital adjustment, realize that it's a negotiation factor, and that the formula can be different today as it is tomorrow. Understand it and negotiate it up front.
Do you think, well, is there a rule of thumb? I mean, let's just stick with the hunting industry. They say, hey, we want to have enough working capital. So at this price, we're going to offer you to buy your business. We need a year's worth of working capital. Or is it a month or a quarter? Or what do you think?
It's a formula that they work out. Like I had one guy, and I'm not going to mention names, in the hunting industry. And he said, Will, you sold your business? He said, yeah, I'd like to visit with you. I said, okay, I'm available tomorrow. Let me look at some times I can talk to you. He said, no, I want to fly down there and come talk to you. This guy was from Minnesota. And I went, you don't have to come down here. No, I want to look at you face to face. I said, would you mind to visit with me? And I said, sure. So he flew down. He had two great businesses in the hunting industry. And he sat down and I told him some of the same stories I'm telling y'all. And when I told him about working capital adjustment, lights went off. And he said I saved him somewhere close to $20 million.
Wow. It's well worth the flight, huh?
That's what he said.
Yeah. Well,
he gave me some of his product.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
$20 million worth of product?
Yeah.
No,
not that much. Well, it's just it's
a
so
lot of turkey calls.
It's so wild, and I'm sure obviously we're going from like really multitasking, right? Because you're in the restaurant business, you're developing this call company, you're figuring things out. All of a sudden, you start producing videos on top of that, and then next thing you know, like you're the the figurehead for what I would consider probably one of the largest companies in the hunting space.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
I think it was, man. I mean, it's not
for sure one of the most viewed.
Yeah,
100%.
It's the name. I mean, when people thought and this isn't any disrespect to like the Mark Drurys and the Mag Calls out there and things like that, but I mean, when people thought about calls in hunting, I have to believe that Primos was probably one of the first words out of their mouths.
Well, you bring up Mark and Terry Drury are great guys. They've done a great job, and there's several more. And I was a part of Mark's rise into the call business. I mean, dang it, it's amazing the number of people that have been on the porch on the Primo scenes that ended up with their own companies. It's been pretty incredible. It really has.
Yeah. Well, when did elk hunting kind of enter the equation?
So in 1967, I was 15 years old, and my mother and my aunt took my family and my aunt's family to Estes Park, Colorado. I remember my first time to fly on a big jet airliner. I flew on a Braniff Airlines. All the stewardesses were gorgeous. I was 15. We went to Estes Park, and I understood. I knew up front that you couldn't fish in Estes Park. So I took the end of my fly rods, my fiberglass fly rods, so that I could and some line, and I just tied on, and I bought some salmon eggs and some little hooks, and I made a little at all these beautiful little lakes you went to. I built with rocks. I built a corral.
Oh yeah.
And I would catch these cutthroat. I caught them by the dozens, and I put them in my little corral. And I'm sitting there, and it's summertime, and a big mule deer walked by. He was very spooky, and when he saw me, he took off. But I don't know. He looked like to me the biggest whitetail I'd ever thought about seeing. He probably was like 130-inch mule deer, but he was big. And then an elk, and I went, you know what? I'm going to come back here and do this. I mean, hunting and fishing is all I wanted to do. But it was 1988 before I got to the point and got back to elk hunt, archery elk hunt. It was near Yampa, Colorado, is the place that I went to. And we called up, and I learned my first valuable lesson: don't shoot a elk walking. And we found him days later, and he was a 4x4. He was not anything huge, but how many of us have dreamed about going west and going elk hunting,
Oh, yeah.
being there? And when in 1972, I guess it was, I went to the movie theater to see a movie called Jeremiah Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And
in theaters.
It did something to me.
Yeah, that one resonates pretty deep with a lot of people.
Yeah, I've watched it over 5,000 times, and I said that to somebody about 5 years ago, so I know it's more than 5,000 times. I've got it on my phone. I got it on my iPad. I go to sleep to it. So a friend of mine who became a friend of mine from Alabama wanted to thank me for the Truth series, and he found out I love Jeremiah Johnson. His name is Ronnie Smith, and Ronnie found the original black and white photographs that were taken when they were documenting making the movie.
Oh, wow.
He found the original synopsis typed on an Underwood typewriter that was presented to Hollywood, said, here is the synopsis of what we think we can build a screenplay around the book Liver Eating Johnson. And I have all that framed in my home. And I look at the pictures of Jeremiah and of Caleb. I mean, on my farm, every road was named for something to have to do with the movie. I mean, I've got the full entire script. And how I came back trying to get the script, a friend of mine, we went upland hunting. We went sharp-tailed grouse hunting in South Dakota together. And he found out I loved Jeremiah Johnson. He goes, well, I got a friend who was an extra in the movie. He was an actor in the movie. And I said, he's got the original script that they gave him for the movie. And I went, man, I'd love to have a copy of that. And so he got that friend to send that to me. And so I have a copy of that. He said he died of COVID, but he's no longer with us. But anyway, I have a copy of that. I have the original posters that when you walked in the theater, the big, huge posters that they marketed the movie. I've been to Cody, Wyoming. So John Johnston became Jeremiah Johnson. So he died. He became a sheriff in his later years in California. He died in California. He was buried in California. So Robert Redford and some other people got to put the money and exhumed him and moved him to Cody because he lived in the cliffs above Cody for a while. And that's where his gravesite is. And it's got a wonderful memorial there to him. And if nobody has ever been, if anybody have not ever been to Cody, Wyoming and been to the Buffalo Bill Museum, it will take you a minimum of 5 days to see the museum.
Jeez.
But Jeremiah's gun, it's not a 50 caliber, it's a 54 caliber, is in that museum. And I don't know how he held it up because it's octagonal, it's a Hawking.
It's heavy.
And it's hatchet jacks,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, I imagine a Will Primos coming out of that movie theater and immediately trying to go grow a beard and, trap beaver, muskrat, and wear a flannel. And it was hot in Mississippi.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it lit a fire under me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Can you just imagine, in 2003, which was the 200th anniversary of the Lewis and Clark expedition, I wanted to commemorate that event. So I found the gun that they had commissioned and made at the Harper's Foundry in Pennsylvania. That they had built to take on the expedition. And so I got the gun. It's a flintlock, 54 caliber, and killed a beautiful bull with it. Me and Brad Ferris. Brad was running the camera. About 3 months after we did that, documentation showed up that it was a carbine. The flintlock was a shorter barrel. That's what they had designed for the trip, but it didn't get finished. And so they left on the trip before those guns could be delivered because they weren't finished. And so they did not take that particular gun on the trip, but it's the thought that counts. But I did. So I used the gun that they were supposedly going to take, but they ended up not taking it. But
interesting. Anyway. So they didn't have the old Pennsylvania long gun flintlock style, or is that what they did end up taking?
That's what they did.
They did take those. Yeah. HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Primos.
Dude, double bull blinds, the original doe can, and who could forget the iconic Magnum buck roar?
I mean, that in a nutshell is Primos for whitetail deer hunters. I mean, that buck roar is by far the best grunt call that's ever been made. I lost it in a CRP field in Kansas, somehow found it, and for the last 10 years, I've been notching every buck that I've called in with that call, and I can tell you there's a lot of marks on it.
There's been a lot of them over the years, man. I can recall. So my dad actually shot that 160-inch 8-point in Ohio a couple years ago. It was double bull blind. I just set that up a few days before, and we've had a lot of success out of those over the years. And so right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for a discount off anything on the Primos website. That's primos.com.
Speak the language.
So, Will, were some of those original elk hunts, were those muzzleloader or rifle hunts? Or in the archery, I assumed it wasn't until a little bit later.
Archery was the beginning. I was just an archery nut. And so I've killed a lot of elk with a bow. I hunted many years. I hunted 3 states. But I've killed one with that flintlock. I killed one with a 45-70 buffalo gun, shallow sharps. I killed one with, and I killed 2 for Savage. Savage became a sister company that Vista owned.
Yep.
So they wanted us to kill. They wanted me to kill something with that. So I killed one with a 375 and one with a 308.
Mm-hmm.
Hunting with a rifle ain't near as much fun as hunting with a bow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so some of that very first one, that was an archery hunt then?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And was that pretty, that was 88, right?
Yeah.
So was that being done very often, killing elk with bows in 88 or?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
1990,
that hunt never got published because we found the elk, days later. But 1990 was the first hunt that we published, and that was out of Angel Fire, New Mexico, which is northern New Mexico.
What bow were you shooting? Was that like old bear whitetails, or were you shooting something else?
I think they were Golden Eagles.
Golden Eagles. Mm-hmm.
Out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. That would be it. I was just say there were quite a few bow companies, but it seemed like there were only, a handful that kept coming up. We talk about that all the time, like the, High Country is another one that like used to be back in the day you'd hear a lot of. And
well, I'm trying to piece together at that time. So it's like nobody was really killing elk with bows, and like you weren't really an elk hunter. So
were you buying those just over the counter tags?
So no, we would access. There were over the counter tags in Colorado.
Yeah.
But we put in for a lot of draws for different places. Like I drew the Valladolid, which is a once in a lifetime hunt in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Killed an elk on that hunt. But we ended up accessing great ranches where elk were managed.
Yeah.
Because we wanted opportunity.
Right.
And sometimes people would call us and go, look, I got a great ranch. I want to promote it. I want you to come hunt elk here with us. And I said, well, how much is a hunt? It says, they would kind of pause and go, we're going to give you the hunt. It says, we won't let you do that. The reason for that is the reason it's expensive to do that, but the reason you do that, if you don't pay for it, there are obligations that you have over and above.
Right.
And you end up looking like an advertisement,
Which a lot of people do in this industry and have done.
Yeah. And so we just made a rule. We don't do that.
Yeah.
That way we could promote what we wanted to promote, and what worked.
I think that's probably pretty smart to do it that way to control what you can, you guys can control. So
we hunted the CA ranch here in Montana, which is about an hour from where I'm sitting. 84,000 acre ranch, and we became very, very good friends with the owner, Frank Anderson. The family has since sold it about 3 or 4 years ago. But the event, the times we had at that ranch and the friendships, and it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It's just, and the memories are just, my wife would go on every trip, and she became an incredible elk caller. I've told this story before, but one time, she's back behind me about 100 yards, and she quits calling, and I can see the bull, he's coming, and the idea is to get the bull to walk by the shooter at 15, 20, 25 yards, having no clue you're in the world. And he got out there, and Mary quit calling, and he turned around and looked at the cameraman going, what the heck's up, So finally, we give Mary the signal, which is 3 mews. So we give her just 3 mews, and she walks up there, and I go, why'd you quit calling? She goes, you want to see? So all these satellites had come in on her. And so she's got her iPad with her, and she's videoing them with her iPad. So she's calling up all these elk behind us, but the big bull, we were trying to get. And then another time we got through, we didn't kill the elk, and we got together, and I said, did you hear all those elk behind us? And Mary goes, that was me. I said, what do you mean that was you? I said, they were running. She gets down on the ground right there and takes 2 rocks, goes, and then cracks a stick. She was making all those sounds. She just figured out what she was hearing she'd do, So she became pretty darn good at it.
That's what makes a good caller. I remember, and I don't know if it was just kind of where his niche was, but I vividly remember Troy and a lot of those elk hunts. Like, it just seemed like, and a lot of those really cool engagements with elk, like it was Troy. It just like continually popping up in a lot of those.
And Troy, if anybody's going to get it done, it's Troy. He is the hardest working. He is a great shot. He's just got it, and he's got a good ear. So
how did Troy get involved with you guys?
What a story. So Troy was raised on a shrimp boat out of Hopedale, Louisiana.
Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah, which is east of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And he just loved to hunt and fish. Grew up down here in the marshes, duck hunting and fishing and all that kind of stuff. And he wrote me a letter and said that he'd like to meet me, that he had learned to call up alligators with one of my turkey calls.
Huh.
And I went, so, he had his phone number on there. We called him, and he drove to Jackson. And I said, well, show me how you calling up these alligators. What kind of sound does alligator make? So what he was doing was using a limb hanger mouth call, which is the name of it, limb hanger. It's a double-reeded, condom-reeded call. And he would use that call to sound like baby alligators. And the mama would come to rescue the babies.
Huh.
Sounds like a swamp boy, doesn't it?
Yeah. But Troy, I didn't have a position for Troy at the time. He ended up working for Preston Pittman for a while, who was a game call manufacturer. And then he worked for Mossy Oak for a while. And then he came, and I think he was 21 years at Primos.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, those were the guys that, we saw surrounding you on that porch. And
those guys could do it. I'm telling you. There's so many of them, It's just I can't tell you how fortunate we were. And the secret, so I was recently on the Meat Eater podcast, and Stephen Ranella was quizzing me about what we did, because they produced TV and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, we did not hire cameramen. We hired hunters and made them cameramen.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I think I might disagree. And he looks over there at Giannis. And, so, whatever. I said, I'm hiring hunters first.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, it's something we talk about a lot when you get into that space, because we've hired camera guys that some were hunters, some weren't. And, a camera guy who is not a hunter may be great from a technology side, but they don't know what the heck they're doing in the woods. Right.
And they can't anticipate. So a hunter who is a cameraman who is a hunter can anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
He's listening and he's paying attention. And the turkey says it's a turkey hunt, and he realized turkey gobbles here, and the turkey gobbles here.
Yep.
Well, he's not going to leave the camera pointing this way.
No, he's moving.
He's moving the camera.
Mm-hmm.
He's anticipating, just like you are as a hunter.
Yep.
So he gets the scene the moment the turkey steps out.
Yeah.
The moment you get any chance to see a piece of that turkey, he's got it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
The great conundrum is trying to find a hunter who is willing to give up time hunting to film.
Okay, so here's how we accomplish that.
Uh-huh.
Every cameraman got to hunt.
Yeah.
So if we went to the CA ranch to hunt and we had 4 tags, me and Brad may hunt first, but as soon as one of us killed, we ran the camera and videoed the cameraman.
There you go.
There you go.
You don't take away their love for wanting to be there and do it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as their ego stays in the right place and they realize it's not about them, it's about the customer. It's about sharing this hunt. And you said it earlier, y'all learned so much by watching the True series. You ain't got any idea what we learned.
Mm-hmm.
We watch ourselves and realize, oh, why did I do that? And oh, I didn't realize making that call like that. You know, so we learned so much by watching ourselves. It was a tremendous bank of information.
So, Will, what do seasons look like for you now? I'd imagine you're still turkey hunting, you're still elk hunting. Is it kind of just between the two, or what is a full season looking like?
I shoot upland birds. So quail hunting is what, as a little man, just really fascinated me with the dogs, my Uncle Gus, and it just, life gets away from you and you don't get to do everything you want to do. You got to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And so quail went away in the Southeast for the part. They're coming back in some places. We're trying hard to get that done. But I want to upland bird hunt. I love to walk. I don't really want to sit and wait on the deer anymore. I've hunted some tremendous bucks. I've been very fortunate to finally figure them out and to kill them with a bow. And that has been a wonderful trip. I've killed a lot of elk. I love that. I don't care if I ever kill another elk. I love to go. I went last year and called for 10 days for all my buddies. We just had a blast.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't have to be the one behind the bow. And I don't want to sit still. So upland bird hunting, side-by-side shotguns, I love being a part of all that. I shoot sporting clays. I try to be a competitor, and I shoot a lot of sporting clays, and that has intrigued me. It's competitive with myself. I'm not competitive with you, but I'm competitive with me, trying to get better and better. It's amazing. I've met some people from all over the world that have just been crazy. The fun I've had meeting these people, these world champions. I just wrote a book on how to shoot in the field based on sporting clay knowledge with Anthony Matarese. He's the most decorated champion in the world from New Jersey. And it's a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun writing the book. Kerry Luft was our editor. He's a masterclass shooter himself, and he's a great editor. But you know, that's my life. I've started some new businesses, and I'm as I told the guys I started the business with, I don't want a job. I ain't coming to the office. I'll be glad to invest, and I'll be glad to talk and to advise. And one of those businesses is in the conservation world. It's called Steward Link. You can look it up.
Okay.
Steward, STEWARD link.com, stewardlink.com. And we represent the steward of the land. If you're the owner and you farm it or you lease it, if you're either one, you're the steward. And there's all these government programs that are available for putting conservation on the ground, for protecting upland habitat, for doing variable rate fertilizer programs, for variable rate insect pesticide programs. And nobody knows really how to access it because the NRCS is busy. They don't have enough people to help them. And so I figured this out when I had my farm. I've sold my farm now, but I couldn't get any help. And I found this one guy that would help me. and he was not a bureaucrat. And then so he ended up after 12 years leaving NRCS, and he started representing in Mississippi the steward of the land to the NRCS and U.S. Agricultural offices.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in 40. We got applications in 40 states now. We have active funded programs in 26 states. So that's been a godsend to a lot of people.
Wow.
To help people get conservation on the ground and understand how to wade through it. It's not unlike you don't do your own income tax return probably. It gets complicated.
Mm-hmm.
You hire somebody who lives that world and understands how to deal with the IRS. So you hire a CPA. So we charge a percentage if you get funded for the program. We don't charge anything unless you get funded.
Got it.
That's awesome. That is a huge unknown. I know. So we're dealing with it even right now. Like with Jeremy and I bought a farm in Illinois. Our taxes got reassessed, and then so we got thrust into having to figure out and jump through these hoops for all these different programs to try to understand, how do we first of all get that addressed, but also tackle some of our management goals. And
well, if you want to, what this group of people knows about, these are all that we've got 21 full-time employees now. And we've got somebody, I believe, full-time in Ohio. You said Ohio?
Illinois.
I'm not sure if we have somebody full-time in Ohio, but we can do whatever online. But, we can look at your farm. You give us your farm number. We can look at your farm and look and see every program that might be available, both public and private.
That's huge.
We also help people with carbon sequestration and selling their carbon credits.
Wow.
Yeah, right on. So how would one more time? It's
Steward Link.
Steward Link, LINK. Mm-hmm. So you would just go to the website and basically fill out an application and say, "Here's my property." And
well, you could go in and send in an inquiry.
Yeah.
But to help you guys, if y'all are interested, when you get through the podcast, call me, and I'll give you the direct number and to the head guy.
Yeah,
we'll take you up
on that. We've got farms.
We got a great system. We just we have an app. We had an app written, and you can take this app and you can look at where your application is, what you need to be doing, and there's compliance issues. Once you get this thing set up, there's certain things you got to do to be able to stay in the program and receive the funds. Wow. So all you've got to do is take your phone, take a picture of the whatever practice you're doing, upload it, bam, you're done. The documentation's there. It's all done through the app.
What a huge service that is. I mean, anybody that's gone through trying to figure out how to get a program funded through the NRCS or the DNR, it's like
exactly. And so if you want to get the app, you can go to Apple, to the App Store, and you can type in Steward Link, or you can type in the green link. So the logo for Steward Link is 3 chain links, 2 gray ones, and a green link in the middle.
Okay.
And the green link links conservation, land, and value all together. So that the green link is the app.
Well, Will, we
download that, and you can look at. There'd be certain things without having an application that you can see on there, and you can see certain things.
Well, hearing you say this, and obviously knowing your background, I think you've always been such a passionate conservationist.
I began to realize all these places that had bigger, more deer, had more grouse, had more, more sharp tails, more Hungarian partridge, more elk. The land was managed, and the things that the people did or didn't do made it possible for these wild critters to have a home. And so it just, those things all began to fit together. And on my particular farm, we stopped erosion into the water surrounded the place. We stopped the erosion. It was silting in really bad. We replanted trees. We took row crop land that was very marginal, that hardly ever made a profit, and put it back into trees. We planted 1,400 acres of warm season native grasses, gamma grass, Indian grass. Wildlife went crazy.
Yeah.
Both game and non-game species. And so, I through my love of upland hunting, I've collected over the past 20 years a set of shotguns. It's the only set of shotguns, 5 consecutive serial number shotguns in 410, 28, 2016, and 12 made by Purdey, Purdey, out of London. And it's over $1 million worth of shotguns. And I've just given them away to conservation. The Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation is the most paramount organization in the United States that protects our hunting and fishing and trapping rights. They watch every local, state, and federal law that's even thinking about being introduced or passed to be sure that we defeat what needs to be defeated and protect what needs to be protected. So I teamed up with them and said, I want y'all to head this up. I'm going to give you the guns, and then I want the guns to be auctioned off. They're going to be auctioned off December 5th, 6th, and 7th by Rock Island Auctions in Dallas, Texas. And I want all the money to go to RMEF, NWTF, DU, Quail, and Pheasants Forever, and you, the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. So that's 5 organizations. So hopefully somebody with a whole lot of money, they'll pay more than what the guns are appraised for.
Right.
And that all can be written off because all these companies are 501c3 companies and they can write it off. So I just want to give back. I just want to, these people, these organizations, they've been my life. It's like that timing. It's like that Outlier book again. They helped give my company a boat to ride in as NWTF made sure there were turkeys across the United States where they've been wiped out before, where the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation protected habitat that benefits upland game, and quail and pheasants, DU. I mean, DU, my first love was green timber waterfowl hunting. And I just wanted to try to do something for these people to thank them for all that they've given us. So yes, I love conservation. And I think conservation is way overused. And some people think conservation is don't fish, don't hunt. And that's a bunch of, you know what?
Yeah.
We're all consumers. Every one of us, whether we hunt or fish or trap or not, we are consumers of this earth.
Yeah.
And if we don't do it wisely, if we don't make good decisions, and there are so many conservation organizations I wanted to make a part of this. The McGraw Foundation is another one. A lot of people haven't heard of the McGraw Foundation, but it was started by Mr. McGraw, who invented the electric toaster back in the early 1900s.
Wow.
And so he put up the money to found the McGraw Foundation, which is north of Chicago. It's a waterfowl wetland nonprofit, and they produced the movie along with DU and Alderman, Wings Over Water. Chris Dorsey was the producer.
Yep, I know Chris.
And so that story on 3D, they're taking it and making it where it can be streamed. They're now telling the story on the Great Salt Lake Basin, Everglades, the Great Forest, the Mississippi River, south of New Orleans, the incredible silting in that's happened there. And what can we do to change all that? They're telling that story. So hopefully all of these school children can see 30 seconds, a minute and a half, can be exposed to it, can learn to love it. And once they love it, whether they hunt, fish, trap, or whatever, they're going to want to protect it.
Yeah, learn that
the Prairie
responsibility.
Pothole region is so important to everything about waterfowl and upland birds. And I mean, it goes on and on, but these people are fantastic people who have made it their life's work to really, truly conserve and put conservation on the ground.
Well, I mean, I love the Steward Link thing. I mean, there's, especially in today's hunting community, for better or worse, many of us do own and or lease land. That's our access. That's our security for our family to hunt for future generations. And most of us do have that conservation mindset of we want to make it better. We want to leave it better than we got it. But it costs money, right? And so there's only so much we can do. We hear about a lot of these programs out there, whether it's USDA, NRCS, programs through the DNR or Department of Conservation. It's overwhelming for the private landowner who, if they own their own land, they're probably successful in their own right and busy, that means. So to figure this out, it's like, they don't have time. Case in point, me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's worth looking into for anybody who owns land and wants to put conservation on the ground.
I think it's a huge thing, because we've talked to a lot of people, agency people, but also, just a lot of people who do private habitat management with properties, and it tends to come back, first of all, every area is different, right? What's available in this state versus this state, or this part of the state, or this property. But we're all looking to do the same thing. Like I said, we're trying to make it better. So, if that's equipped to do timber management, some TSI stuff, or do prescribed burning, we're all open to doing that stuff if we have the right guidance and we have the right knowledge of applicable programs.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They want to do something, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So it's easy to use Steward Link to find out what's available. And like I said, there's no cost to anybody. If you apply and you get funded, then there'll be a percentage when you get the money. But there's not a penny you have to pay at all until it's funded.
Yeah, no, and I don't think anybody would argue with that. If you get me money, if I make money, you make money. Like that tends to be a really good program, I would say, in that case.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Will, I think that was awesome, man. We really appreciate you taking some time with us this midday and talking through, and good to catch up, and appreciate you sharing a lot about the history of Primos. Like I said, I think a lot of our audience is in that age class that, like I said, one of the most recognizable brands that we all grew up with, and your voice and the content, and you and Troy and Brad and everybody hanging out on porches. I mean, that was stuff that were catalysts for all of us to still love the outdoors today. And
I tell you, over the years, you try to figure out what it is that is your foundation that drives you. One of those things is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what it is, it's discipline for your relationship with God. It's discipline with your relationship with your family, no matter what it is. So what's the definition of discipline? Your work, making a business succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this definition for discipline. But one day my Sunday school teacher told me about his son, who was an Iraq wounded veteran, and he had defined his own definition of discipline. When Sunday school was over, I went up there and I said, "Give me those exact words. That's better than mine." And his name is C.J. Stewart, and his definition of discipline is giving up what you want now for what you really want later.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good definition of it, actually.
It's a driver, buddy. It's a driver.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think we can hear from you now. I mean, I'm sure when it was time to sell Primos and going through those things, like that's a, blood, sweat, and tears in that. That's a big thing. But you're, looking at that, I would assume that, you've lived a great life up to that point, and since being able to sell and do that stuff, you've taken advantage of every day that you've got.
Yes, sir. I try to. I try to stay disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's hard. I didn't exercise as long as I needed to this morning.
And what is it tomorrow? You've got a fishing trip? I know we were scheduling it around the trip.
We leave. What's tomorrow? We leave Friday. We were leaving tomorrow, but we're leaving Friday.
There you go. So you got a good fishing trip.
We're going to fish the Ruby River outside of Twin Bridges.
There you go.
Twin Bridges, Montana.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be pretty scenery going down, and if you're lucky, a few trout will bite on the way.
There you go.
So, well, listen, Will, we appreciate it. Stick around for a second. I just want to make sure everything uploads. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Y'all are great. Appreciate you.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Bushnell.
Man, what an iconic brand. I mean, I vividly remember growing up, it seemed like every serious deer hunter had a Bushnell pair of binoculars or Bushnell rifle scope. You knew that those guys were serious about what they were about to go with if they were packing the Bushnell stuff.
No doubt, man. I remember bone collector guys and so many others that we've respected over the years. It's always been like your grandpa's rifle scope. And since then, obviously, they've developed so many great products. We're rocking the R series of binoculars this year. I believe it's the R5 10 by 42s. Those have been awesome. We took those to TAC a couple weeks ago, along with the broadhead rangefinder. That's got a ton of technology packed into it for angles and and for bow hunters ultimately. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, we've talked about this with a lot of the brands we're working for, is we want high quality gear that's affordable. And that's exactly what Bushnell's trying to position here. They want to make really good gear that anyone that's serious about deer hunting can afford. And so most of those R5 series binos that we're talking about are under $300 for unbelievable glass.
No doubt. And so for right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, to get a discount on the Bushnell website. That's bushnell.com.
Will Primos. And awesome.
Pretty neat.
Pretty neat.
Speak the language.
First of all, and Will, well, were we off there? We were off there when Will said flattery will get you everywhere.
That's right.
Dude looks good for 73.
He looks fantastic.
Holy balls.
See how well his hair was combed over?
Oh my gosh.
It's immaculate.
He's dapper.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Very.
That's a Southern man right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, just, I mean, he it's funny because I know he brought it up a couple times there, but like his voice is very iconic.
Oh yeah.
Like just you hear that Southern Will Primos and you're like, yep, that's Will.
Like you said, I don't know if there's any other voice like in the hunting space that's has been more widely used or syndicated or it's been on everything. Anybody hears that is gonna guess like that's Will Primos.
Yeah, I mean they definitely have like the Bill Jordans of the world or Michael Waddell. Like you hear those guys, but Will's just. Yeah, for whatever reason.
He's got that rasp, that Morgan Freeman
boy,
type.
It just really...
Morgan Freeman of the hunting industry.
Really stands out there. So, but awesome. And he just texted us this stuff for... I hope a lot of people still listen to this, and I'm sure just because of our audience. Jared and I are going to check out this Steward Link stuff, so we'll keep you guys in the loop, but that's awesome. Like, holy, that's like, I feel like we've been like, hey, somebody should have a service for this.
Well, dude, if anybody's tried to do that, it's like bashing your head against the wall. Like, you talk to 3 people in the same department and nobody even knows. Like, I mean, some states I'm sure are better than others. And I don't mean to put anybody down that's in those
well, they're just busy.
Organizations, they're busy, and it's not their job necessarily to communicate with landowners. And so it falls on us a lot of times to figure it out for ourselves, through trial and error. So the fact that he essentially has like a commission-based service to, hold your hand through that is a big deal.
Done. Yeah. You get paid when I get paid. Great. That's fine. Yes. Well,
yeah,
well
that's
worth
how you
it.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll, I'm sure we'll be doing that for Illinois and maybe our other farms as well. So we'll keep you guys posted on that in the future. But yeah, just appreciate Will. I mean, man, going back and watching, like in my head, watching those videos and the hunts with Troy and Brad. We've talked about with our contacts at Primos now, we're going to try to get Brad on at some point and probably Troy and just having those guys, man, it's so cool. But if you couldn't tell, like Will is a sharp guy.
Oh yeah,
super sharp. Like especially like the business mindset and everything. And I didn't know about his military background and training, during Vietnam and stuff. So the guy's gone through some like pretty intense time frames. Being at that age, military age during Vietnam, there weren't and being in the military, just not going over there.
Well, even in business, I mean, he kind of glazed over it, but he's like, yeah, there was multiple times where we were $10+ million in debt.
I know. I was like, did I hear that right?
Yeah, I mean, talk about stress, to perform, and to have to make something work, So he I'm sure there were some years that were pretty challenging.
Yeah, and to endure it and realize like, and also humble enough to recognize when it was like time to give it to someone else if things were going to continue to grow and the employees were going to get taken care of. So
yeah,
cool though. Like it just, I mean the name Primos and which is why we were so excited to be working with those guys just from a call standpoint is like, I was going to ask him and I didn't. I was going to see, I assume after he sold is when they acquired a double bull, but I don't know when that came in. Cause I think that was an acquisition at some point.
Okay.
But yeah, man, just freaking Will Primos, like
iconic. Yeah,
just Will Primos. Feel like I could sit around, a campfire with that guy for days probably, and just never hear the same story.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. for a second. I was like, I'll throw some names out, but I mentioned the David Blands earlier. So, some comparable
There are.
stories in terms of in time frame and stuff. There's just a handful of them that have still stuck around to today. That obviously their passion is what's kept them here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look at the bucket of the icon. It's Will. We just did a video clip here recently. Stan Potts, like that's another guy. Like I'm just like I could hear Stan tell stories forever. Waddy he's the younger of that generation, but definitely
for sure.
Mark and Terry, definitely in that bucket.
Will was before all of them though. He may be around the same age as Stan. I think Stan's maybe a
Will.
little older.
Will was there when it was. So it was Will. It was Toxie and Cuz.
It was those guys. Yeah.
It was Bill Jordan and it was Jackie Bushman.
That's right.
That was it. There they were.
Yeah.
Those were the groups of hunters that really embraced that. In retrospect, like they're all Southern guys.
Yeah.
I mean, hunting in the West and the Midwest and the Northeast, but like they're all Southern guys.
Yeah.
Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, across the board there. And but yeah, I mean that was the original crew. What I would say prior to, and obviously through, but really prior to the outdoor industry TV boom.
Yeah.
So
that's what it was. It was that time frame of
VHS, DVDs.
The DVDs. They really pioneered a lot of that video aspect. And you even heard him talk about it was at a trade show. He saw and he mentioned the guy's name, but it was like the first turkey hunt on film he'd ever seen.
Yeah, and the people were just lined up, and I mean that I could see the aha moment of like, whoa, wait a minute, like this is what people want.
Yeah. Well, and look just how far from that or far, along we've come, however you want to look at it, I guess to today, it's just like, it's crazy to think that can all happen in a matter of, well, I guess, 88, that'd be
almost 40 years.
40 some plus years ago, I believe. Yeah.
Not quite 40
Don't check
years.
my math, but
30, 36.
Even more impressive. Like,
36 years.
36 years, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
From Will Primos seeing the first turkey hunt on film to now.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah. Crazy. Pretty wild. So, anyways, we appreciate everyone listening to episode 266.
Ooh,
I think so.
6 sounds right.
266 HUNTR Podcast with Will Primos, and we will catch you, I think, later this week, but I'm not positive. I think this is a double week, the first double week, but we'll catch you next one.
Speak the language.
Take me on down the river where the cute kids